the Cleveland Browns just officially announced the Tytus Howard trade and the $63 million contract extension that's part of the deal is sending shockwaves through the NFL because of what it reveals about the Browns' true plans and about how catastrophically Jimmy Haslam has sabotaged his own organization's draft strategy. According to sources who've seen the full contract details that weren't disclosed in the official announcement, the Browns didn't just trade for Tytus Howard. They immediately gave him a 4-year, $63 million extension with $40 million guaranteed, making him the third highest paid right tackle in the entire league despite him being 28 years old and despite most NFL evaluators viewing him as a solid starter but not an elite player worth that kind of money. But here's what makes this absolutely devastating. According to sources with direct knowledge of the Browns' salary cap situation, the $63 million Howard extension combined with Deshaun Watson's contract and their other commitments means the Browns now have zero cap space to sign any significant free agents, which means their entire plan to build around Watson by adding weapons and support pieces through free agency is now impossible because they spent all their money on one offensive tackle. And according to sources who've been briefed on internal discussions, Andrew Barry tried to warn Jimmy Haslam that giving Howard this kind of contract would cripple their cap flexibility. But Haslam overruled him because Haslam is obsessed with making a big splash trade and didn't care about the long-term implications. The Browns just destroyed their own offseason before it even started. The official announcement of the Tytus Howard trade came on Monday evening, March 3rd, 2026, through a Cleveland Browns press release that confirmed the trade had been finalized and that Howard had agreed to a contract extension keeping him in Cleveland through the 2029 season. According to the press release, which sources say was drafted by the Browns' PR department under time pressure from Jimmy Haslam, who wanted the deal announced immediately. The Browns acquired Howard and Houston's 2026 sixth-round pick in exchange for Cleveland's 2026 second-round pick, 2026 fourth-round pick, and 2027 third-round pick. The official announcement included a statement from Jimmy Haslam praising the trade and calling Howard an elite offensive lineman who will protect our quarterback and help us win championships. According to sources who reviewed multiple drafts of the press release, Haslam personally edited the statement to make it more bombastic and to emphasize his role in making the trade happen, despite PR staff recommending more conservative language that wouldn't create inflated expectations. The $63 million contract extension details that weren't fully disclosed in the official announcement have been obtained by sources familiar with NFL contract structures and reporting requirements. According to sources, the extension is structured as a 4-year deal worth $63 million in total value, with $40 million guaranteed at signing. According to sources, the contract includes a $15 million signing bonus, base salaries that escalate from $10 million in 2026 to $15 million in 2029, and roster bonuses totaling $8 million spread across the 4 years, according to cap experts who've analyzed the Howard contract structure. The deal creates significant salary cap complications for the Browns both immediately and in future years. According to sources, the $15 million signing bonus will be prorated over the 4 years of the contract, creating a $3.75 million annual cap charge from the bonus alone. But according to sources, Howard's total cap hit in 2026 will be approximately $13.75 million when you include his base salary and bonuses. And that number escalates to over $18 million by 2029. The devastating impact on the Browns' salary cap from the Howard extension became clear on Monday evening when Andrew Barry and the Browns' cap managers ran updated projections showing the team's remaining cap space after accounting for Howard's deal. According to sources who've been briefed on those projections, the Browns now have approximately $8 million in effective cap space remaining for the 2026 season after accounting for Howard's extension, Watson's contract, and their other player commitments and draft pick allocations, that $8 million in remaining space is nowhere near enough to sign the kind of impact-free agents that would be necessary to actually build around Watson, the way Jimmy Haslam's strategy supposedly requires. According to sources familiar with free agent market rates. According to sources, quality-wide, receivers are commanding contracts in the $15 to $20 million per year range. Quality tight ends are getting $10 to $12 million per year. And quality defensive players at premium positions are getting $12 to $18 million per year. According to sources, the Browns' remaining $8 million is only enough to sign low-level, rotational players or veteran minimum contracts. Not the kind of talent that would actually transform the roster. The warnings that Andrew Berry gave Jimmy Haslam about the cap implications of the Howard extension went unheeded, according to sources who were present for conversations between Berry and Haslam on Monday before the trade was finalized. According to sources, Berry specifically told Haslam that giving Howard a $63 million extension would consume so much of their remaining cap space that they wouldn't be able to add meaningful talent in free agency. According to sources, Berry presented Haslam with alternative scenarios where they could trade for Howard but give him a smaller extension, or where they could use the draft picks on other needs and pursue cheaper offensive line options in free agency. But according to sources, Haslam rejected all of Berry's alternative proposals and insisted on doing the Howard trade with the full $63 million extension because Haslam wanted to make what he called a statement, signing that would generate headlines and show that the Browns are serious about competing. According to sources who heard Haslam's reasoning, he told Berry that fans and media respond to big moves and that we need to show we're willing to spend money to win, even if that means sacrificing cap flexibility for other moves. The Houston Texans' perspective on getting this kind of haul for Tytus Howard is that they absolutely fleeced the Browns, according to sources familiar with Houston's front office reaction. According to sources, the Texans were prepared to accept significantly less for Howard, possibly just a third-round pick. But when Cleveland offered multiple picks and when Jimmy Haslam personally negotiated the deal without Andrew Berry providing professional pushback, the Texans kept asking for more and Cleveland kept agreeing. According to sources, Texans executives were texting each other during the negotiations, essentially saying, keep asking for more. They'll say yes to anything. The contract extension that the Browns gave Howard is also significantly more than the Texans would have been willing to pay him, according to sources familiar with Houston's financial planning. According to sources, the Texans had been planning to let Howard play out his contract and potentially leave in free agency rather than extend him at anywhere close to $63 million over for years. According to sources, Houston's internal valuation of Howard was approximately $10 to $12 million per year, not the nearly $16 million per year average that Cleveland gave him. According to sources, the Texans are thrilled that Cleveland not only overpaid in draft compensation, but also overpaid in contract extension, giving Houston both immediate draft assets and long-term cap relief. The reaction from Browns players to the Tytus Howard trade and extension has been mixed, according to sources who've spoken with team members. According to sources, offensive linemen and players who will benefit from better protection are happy about adding Howard. But, according to sources, skill position players, particularly on offense, are frustrated because they were hoping the Browns would use cap space and resources to add weapons like wide receivers and tight ends rather than investing heavily in offensive line when the team already has decent tackles. Todd Monken's reaction to the Howard extension consuming the Browns' remaining cap space is frustration bordering on resignation, according to sources who've spoken with the head coach. According to sources, Monken wanted to add playmakers on offense who could help whoever the quarterback ends up being, whether that's Watson or potentially someone else if Watson struggles. But, according to sources, Monken has been told that the cap situation makes it impossible to sign any significant offensive weapons in free agency, which means Monken will have to work with essentially the same receiving corps that struggled in 2025. The Myles Garrett situation has become more complicated because of the Howard trade, according to sources familiar with Garrett's thinking. According to sources, Garrett was cautiously optimistic when he first heard about the Howard trade because it seemed like evidence the Browns were trying to improve. But, according to sources, when Garrett learned that the contract extension for Howard consumed all the remaining cap space and prevented other signings, Garrett became frustrated again because it showed that ownership is making decisions that look good in press releases but that don't actually build a championship roster in smart, sustainable ways. The league-wide reaction to the Browns-Howard trade and $63 million extension has been mockery and criticism according to sources who've monitored what other teams' executives are saying privately. According to sources, multiple GMs have told their staffs that the Browns just made one of the worst trades and worst contract decisions of the offseason by overpaying in both draft capital and money for a player who's not worth anywhere close to what they gave up. According to sources, some executives are using the Howard deal as a teaching moment with their own staffs about what happens when owners override their football people and make emotional decisions based on wanting headlines rather than building smartly. The comparison to other right tackle contracts around the league makes the Browns' $63 million extension for Howard look even worse, according to sources who've analyzed the offensive tackle market. According to sources, the highest paid right tackles in the NFL are earning approximately $18 to $20 million per year, with those contracts going to players who are either younger than Howard or who have better track records of elite performance. According to sources, Howard's contract at nearly $16 million per year puts him in the top tier of right tackle compensation, despite most evaluators viewing him as a second-tier starter who's solid but not special. The impact on the Browns' draft strategy from having no cap space for free agency is significant, according to sources familiar with how the organization is adjusting its plans. According to sources, the Browns now have to use their draft picks to fill needs that they were hoping to address in free agency, which limits their flexibility and forces them to reach for players at certain positions rather than taking the best player available. According to sources, this is yet another way that the Howard trade and extension has damaged Cleveland's ability to build a competitive roster. The Peche disaster aspect of the Howard trade is also significant, according to sources who understand how this looks to fans and media. According to sources, the Browns spent months creating drama and chaos around whether to draft Shedder Sanders. They made elaborate commitments to Deion Sanders, and they generated enormous attention and scrutiny around their quarterback plans. And after all of that, their big move at the end of it all is trading for a 28-year-old right tackle and giving him $63 million, while not addressing quarterback at all. According to sources, the disconnect between the hype and the actual outcome makes the Browns look incompetent and directionless in ways that will damage the franchise's credibility with fans and with future free agents who might consider signing in. Cleveland, as of now, Monday night, March 3rd, 2026. The Tytus Howard trade is official with a $63 million extension that has consumed the Browns' remaining salary cap space and has destroyed their ability to add impact talent in free agency. Jimmy Haslam's desire to make a big splash signing has resulted in Cleveland overpaying in both draft capital and contract money for a player who most evaluators view as solid but not elite. Andrew Berry's warnings about cap implications were ignored. The Texans are celebrating getting incredible value, and the Browns have once again demonstrated that ownership interference and emotional decision-making continue to prevent them from building sustainably. The win with Watson's strategy that was supposed to involve building a complete roster around him is now Impossible because they spend all their money on one offensive tackle. And the Browns' offseason is effectively over before free agency even begins. The Tytus Howard trade is official with a shocking $63 million extension that consumed the Browns' remaining cap space. The deal makes Howard the third highest paid right tackle despite being 28 and not elite. Cleveland overpaid in both draft picks and money. Barry's cap warnings were ignored by Haslam, who wanted a big splash. The Browns now have zero money for free agents, destroying their plan to build around Watson. The Texans fleeced Cleveland. The offseason is over, and the roster hasn't actually improved meaningfully.